Hi, I'm Kelly, and today's project is for total beginners. It's really easy, and when you're doing it yourself, you might feel like you're just messing around. But actually, this project will help you discover what your brushes can do. It's also kind of fun and impossible to screw up. So let's give it a try. As you can see, I've divided my watercolor paper into 3 boxes, and I've taped it to a piece of cardboard. I traced around a postcard to make these boxes, but you can make them whatever size or shape you like. The goal here is to see how many different marks your brushes can make, and I'm starting with a couple of round brushes. So I'm loading my brush with green paint. It's a bold color, but I'm adding water to it so it can flow easily. First, I'm varying the pressure on the brush. This produces a variety of widths. Next, I'm doing some thin lines using the brush's tip, and I'm sorry my hand's in the way here. What happens when you lay the brush on its side and use it like a stamp? You can see this becoming a little cluster of leaves. Sometimes you just want to fill in a big block. And you can see the texture of the paper when you drag the brush across. There's some little tiny dots. Sometimes I like to separate the bristles and sort of dust the paint over the surface. Again, my hand's in the way. And these are just a few marks with my smaller round brush. We're moving on to the flat brush. I love how easy it is to make rectangles with this. And if you turn it sideways, you'll get a nice straight line. If you've ever done calligraphy, you'll see how a flat brush's tip can create similar effects. I'm running out of paint on this brush, and look at how the bristles start to separate and make interesting lines on the right. You can also coax the bristles apart with your fingers. You can make a convincing wood grain texture this way. You can create a sort of zigzag pattern by moving the brush up and down while pulling it sideways. And this is what happens when you push down on the brush and then release it a bit while moving it over the paper. And you can always do some little dots with the corner of the brush. Next up are a couple of brushes I use occasionally for special effects. The first is a fan brush. When you get it wet, the bristles clump together, and it reminds me of a hand with lots of fingers. Years ago, I created abstract watercolor paintings using this brush because it makes lots of beautiful parallel lines in a single stroke. You can use it to paint grassy textures, or you can dot with it, or sort of stamp it on its side. And this is my favorite brush. It's an old fuzzy round brush, and I use it for textures like fur, hair, and even skin. I rarely get rid of my old brushes because they can do things like this. And I'm just barely hitting the paper with the tip of the brush. I can even create a soft, misty effect by lightly dusting a mostly dry brush over the surface. And sometimes I just dot with it. So those are just a few of the many different marks you can make with a handful of brushes. If you're a beginner, play around with your brushes and see what they can do. You might be surprised. Thanks as always for watching.